In the fading light of a crisp autumn evening, as the bells of St. Mary's Church tolled mournfully over the bustling city streets, a young woman huddled on the cold stone steps, her tattered coat pulled tight against the biting wind. Her name was Emily, though she hadn't heard it spoken kindly in months. Eyes hollow from sleepless nights and endless despair, she stared blankly at the pavement, where passers-by dropped coins into her cup without a second glance. But then, a small voice pierced the veil of her isolation, a voice so pure and unexpected that it jolted her from her numbness. "I think you need a hug," said the little girl, no more than 7 years old, standing there with wide, compassionate eyes and a pink scarf fluttering like a banner of hope. In that moment, the world seemed to pause, and Emily's heart, long frozen in grief, cracked just a little. Emily blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. The girl, with her curly brown hair peeking out from under a woolen hat and a backpack slung over one shoulder, looked like she had wandered straight out of a storybook. Behind her, a harried mother juggled shopping bags and glanced nervously at the church doors, where evening service was about to begin. "Lily, honey, come on," the mother called softly, but Lily didn't budge. She extended her tiny arms, waiting, as if the act of hugging a stranger was the most natural thing in the world. Emily's mind raced, memories of her own childhood flooded back, of warm embraces from a mother who had long since passed, of a life that once held promise before it all unraveled. Hesitantly, she leaned forward, and as Lily's arms wrapped around her, a sob escaped Emily's lips. It was the first human touch she'd felt in weeks, a spark of warmth in the cold void of homelessness. That simple hug on the church steps was the beginning of everything. Emily had arrived in the city 2 years earlier, fresh out of college with a degree in graphic design and dreams of making it big. She landed a job at a small ad agency, rented a cozy apartment, and even started dating a guy named Alex who made her laugh until her sides hurt. But life has a way of turning on a dime. First came the layoffs, the agency downsized amid economic woes, and Emily was let go without warning. Bills piled up, and Alex, who had promised forever, bailed when things got tough, leaving her with a broken heart and an empty bank account. She sold what she could, couch-surfed with friends until they grew weary of her presence, and eventually found herself on the streets, scavenging for food and shelter. The shame was the worst part. She avoided old acquaintances, hid her face from the world, and built walls around her soul to survive the daily humiliations. Lily's family wasn't perfect either. Her mother, Sarah, was a single mom working 2 jobs as a nurse and a waitress to keep a roof over their heads after Lily's father walked out 3 years ago. Sarah had her own scars, nights spent crying over unpaid bills, worries about Lily growing up too fast in a world that seemed increasingly unkind. But Sarah had faith, that's why they attended St. Mary's every Sunday evening. Lily, with her boundless energy and innate empathy, was Sarah's light. The girl had a habit of noticing the overlooked, a stray cat here, a lonely classmate there, and acting on it without hesitation. That evening, as Sarah watched her daughter embrace the stranger, something stirred in her. She approached cautiously, kneeling down beside them. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked Emily, her voice gentle but firm. Emily pulled back from the hug, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of her coat. I don't know," she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. Lily beamed up at her. "Hugs make everything better. Mommy says so." Sarah smiled faintly, though worry lines creased her forehead. She glanced at the darkening sky and made a split-second decision. "It's getting cold out here. Why don't you come inside with us? The church has a soup kitchen after service." Emily hesitated. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. What if this was pity? What if they judged her? But Lily's hand slipped into hers, small and warm, and tugged gently. "Please. I want to show you my drawing. It's of a rainbow after the rain." How could she refuse? Inside the church, the warmth enveloped them like a blanket. The pews were filled with families, elderly parishioners, and a few others like Emily, down on their luck but seeking solace. As the service began, hymns filling the air with notes of redemption, Emily sat rigidly, her mind a whirlwind. She hadn't been in a church since her mother's funeral 5 years ago, when cancer had stolen the only family she had left. The pastor spoke of second chances, of how even in the darkest valleys, light could break through. Emily stole glances at Lily, who colored quietly in her notebook, and at Sarah, who sang along with quiet conviction. After the service, in the basement soup kitchen, Sarah insisted Emily join them for a meal. Hot stew and fresh bread, simple, but to Emily, it was a feast. Over the next few weeks, that chance encounter blossomed into something profound. Sarah, seeing Emily's quiet intelligence and artistic flair through their conversations, offered her odd jobs around their small apartment, designing flyers for the church's community events, helping Lily with homework drawings. Emily was reluctant at first, sleeping in shelters and showing up sporadically, but Lily's persistent invitations wore her down. "You can stay on our couch tonight," Lily would say, her eyes pleading. One night turned into 2, then a week. Sarah shared her own stories of struggle, of how she nearly lost everything after her divorce but clawed her way back with help from the church community. "It's okay to accept help," Sarah told Emily one evening over tea. "It doesn't make you weak, it makes you human." But challenges loomed large. Emily's past traumas resurfaced in nightmares, flashbacks to nights spent under bridges, fending off dangers, the constant hunger gnawing at her insides. She battled depression, days when getting out of bed felt impossible. One particularly bad day, she snapped at Lily over a spilled glass of milk, regret flooding her immediately as the girl's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," Emily whispered, pulling Lily into a hug, the roles reversed now. I feel so broken sometimes." Lily patted her back. "Broken things can be fixed. Like my toy bear, Mommy sewed him up, and now he's better than new." External hurdles mounted too. Emily applied for jobs, her portfolio dusted off and updated with Sarah's encouragement, but rejections poured in. "No fixed address," one interviewer noted coldly. "How can we trust you'll be reliable?" The stigma of homelessness clung to her like a shadow. Then there was the bureaucratic nightmare, applying for aid programs, waiting in endless lines at social services offices, only to be told she didn't qualify because of some technicality. Sarah drove her to appointments, advocated for her, but frustration built. One rainy afternoon, Emily broke down in the car. "Why bother? I'm just a burden." Sarah pulled over, gripping the wheel. "You're not. Look at Lily, she adores you. You've taught her more about kindness in a month than I could in a year. We're in this together." The turning point came during the church's annual charity fair. Emily, with her design skills, volunteered to create posters and booths. Her work caught the eye of Mr. Harlan, a local businessman who owned a printing shop. "This is professional quality," he said, admiring a vibrant flyer she'd made for the event. "You looking for work?" Skeptical but hopeful, Emily interviewed the next day. Mr. Harlan, a widower with his own history of loss, saw potential in her. "Everyone deserves a second chance," he echoed the pastor's words. He offered her a part-time position, with the promise of full-time if she proved herself. It wasn't glamorous, starting with basic layouts and coffee runs, but it was a start. As months passed, Emily's life rebuilt brick by brick. She saved enough for a small studio apartment, though she still visited Sarah and Lily often, their bond unbreakable. Challenges persisted, a relapse into doubt when an old friend from her agency days spotted her and sneered, or the loneliness of holidays without family. But resolutions came through perseverance. Therapy, arranged through church resources, helped Emily process her grief and build resilience. She mentored other homeless youth at the shelter, paying forward the kindness she'd received. Lily, growing more confident, started a hug club at school, encouraging kids to reach out to those in need. 1 year after that fateful hug, on a sunny spring day, Emily stood on those same church steps, but this time as a volunteer organizer for a community outreach event. Lily, now 8, ran up to her with arms outstretched. "Group hug," she yelled, pulling Sarah in too. Emily laughed, tears of joy streaming down her face. She had a job she loved, friends who felt like family, and a renewed sense of purpose. The world hadn't magically fixed itself, poverty, loss, and hardship still existed, but one act of compassion had rippled outward, changing lives. In the quiet moments, Emily reflected on how far she'd come. From the depths of despair to the heights of hope, it all started with a little girl's words, "I think you need a hug." It reminded her that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the doorway to connection. And in a world that often feels cold and indifferent, a single embrace can ignite a chain of healing. As Emily's story unfolded, she faced the relentless grind of rebuilding her life from scratch. The first few weeks after moving in temporarily with Sarah and Lily were a mix of gratitude and guilt. Emily insisted on contributing, cooking simple meals from pantry staples, helping Lily with her bedtime stories, even redesigning Sarah's nursing schedule on a makeshift calendar to make her shifts more manageable. But the nights were hard. Lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling, Emily's mind replayed her failures, the day she was evicted from her apartment, carrying her belongings in trash bags, the humiliation of begging for change, the fear that gripped her during a particularly brutal winter storm when she sought refuge in a subway station, huddled with others in similar straits.